Okay, so before we start off, here's a quick session overview. We'll start off with the background, and Bhargavi actually wrote a very interesting article on Medium outlining the differences between data engineering and other data roles. Then we'll dive a bit into her job hunt journey, and of course, her stint with Amazon, where she was both the interviewee and interviewer, on where she hired multiple new graduates. And of course, we'll end the show, which I think is the most exciting part, where she'll show her CV, cover letter, and of course, review a couple of CVs that came in. So, do you want to talk a bit about Bhargavi's background, and then we can move?
So as you can see, Bhargavi, she did her undergrad in electrical, electronics and communications engineering from India, and that is not related to data engineering at all. But maybe some of you in the audience might have a similar background where you're trying to transition into the data engineering field. So Bhargavi did her master's from CMU, and she's an ex-Amazonian, and currently she works as a senior data engineer at Netflix. So I'm just going to pass it over to Bhargavi to get started in her own words.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bhargavi, and I'm a data engineer at Netflix, and I'm really excited to be here. So I can, when Apurva told me about the Immigrant project, I kind of resonated with it just because like it was a lot of struggle to kind of try to find the right company, the right role. And I was really excited to be part of the mission.
So this is kind of the article that Apurva mentioned earlier, where Bhargavi wrote this really nice blog about differences between various roles which are there in the data engineering versus data scientist versus data analyst. So Bhargavi, can you explain like what are the key differences between them?
Sure. So just to add a pointer, like the reason I wrote this blog, and I would highly encourage you to go read it once the session is over, was because a lot of people used to come to me, used to reach out to me through LinkedIn, and they would like ask me the same question over and over again that, you know, what data roles are out there, and I don't know if if I'm more suited for a data engineer or a data scientist or a data analyst. So that kind of motivated me to write that blog. But if I have to summarize it, I would put it into three broad categories: data engineering, data science, and data analytics. So I'm a data engineer, and I found my passion there because I love technology. So if you feel like you really enjoy coding, you really enjoy working with like large volumes of data, you want to learn about the tech stack, you want to learn about Hadoop and Spark and use all those technical big data tools to build data pipelines to move data from one source to another and work with unstructured data, then data engineering is where you want to go. Data analytics, on the other hand, like if you really like working with business consumers, you want to, you know, look into the data, build metrics, build visualization out of those metrics, then data analytics is the way to go. And the third data category is data science, which is purely, it's also technical. You need to have good programming skills, but at the same time, like you're expected to be really good at statistics and have some machine learning background. So that's the role suited for you if you're interested in building those predictive models.
Great. Thank you so much, Bhargavi, for those very insightful experience inputs. I mean, of course, this is just a broad overview that she provided, and feel free to dive deep into this particular blog and also other resources at the end of the presentation that we're going to share with you guys. Bhargavi, you know, coming to the job hunt process, right? Most recently, we did a survey where we got about 350 to 360 responses where from new graduates or graduates who are looking for internships and their first professional jobs. One of the biggest challenge that they stated was to get that first interview. Okay, so you've interviewed clearly before ending up with Amazon, organizations such as PwC, LinkedIn, eBay, Google, STLC, and all of them. Could you give us some points as to how to get that first interview, and what was your experience through those failures?
Definitely. So I think like any other job hunt journey, like I want to say this, that rejection is part and parcel. Like these are all the companies I've got rejects from, which is PwC, LinkedIn, eBay, Google, and a lot more before I cracked Amazon. So just want to put it out there that rejection is part and parcel of the job hunt journey. And the key is to interview often so that you can take your experiences from each interview to the next. So as to your question around what did not work for me, I feel like initially when I started interviewing, I did not prep at all for my behavioral rounds. I kind of took it for granted that, behavioral rounds, I'm going to just go and get in and crack it. But what helped me later on was that I did go into the interviews after proper research of the company. I read their financial statements to the extent that, like, I had some numbers at the uh, top of my fingers. And so I focused too much on technical skills initially. And as a new grad, when you're coming into a company, companies really focus on your behavioral skills, how you fit into the culture, as much as your technical skills. And I think a lot of consulting companies conduct networking events like PwC. So I did not take advantage of that. So if you have companies conducting networking events, I would highly encourage you to attend them. And as to what worked for me, I did not have much experience. So I worked for a year in a consulting company called Mu Sigma before I came for my master's. But in terms of proper experience, I did not have a lot of it. So then I started taking courses with project work. Started taking courses where I could actually work with a lot of clients. And one thing which really helped me getting my first interview was attending office hours. So I graduated from CMU, and CMU, luckily, I don't know if all universities have that, but CMU luckily conducted office hours. So you had representatives coming from different companies come and talk to you in a more personal setting. So it was a smaller group setting of 3 to 4 people, and you could sign up. So I attended a lot of office hours. It gave me an opportunity to interact at a personal level, share my resume, ask them about the company and the role in more detail. And if you have office hours, so highly encourage you to attend those, and also ask them for their personal contact information so that you can reach out after the office hours. So and reach out ASAP within a day or two. Probably they won't even remember like that they met you a week after. So, and it does not hurt to ask for corporate cards or emails. Some might even reject you. They might not want to share that information, but there's no harm in trying.
So that's what Bhargavi says, that it does not hurt to ask for a corporate card. You might get rejected, but there's no harm in trying. So one key takeaway I think would be from this is that don't just show up at the office hours or career fair events. Do your prep work, research the company, and also make sure you follow up after you get their contact information. So moving on, we all know that Amazon is one of the most competitive places that is hiring in today's times. And Bhargavi, can you tell us a little bit about your Amazon journey? How did you, like she said, she attacked it from all sides. And what was your experience interviewing with Amazon? And Bhargavi has also been on the other side of the table. She's been on interview panels for Amazon during her time there once she got in. So can you just tell us how your journey was?
Definitely. I think Amazon was like right on top of my list because Amazon hires a lot of new grads, unlike Netflix, where I'm currently in. So Netflix really focuses on people with experience, graduates. So Amazon was right up there because they hire new grads. But what I meant from attacking from all sides was Amazon is a huge company. So it's not just retail. You have the digital business function of it. You have Alexa, you have Amazon Go, and so many other business functions. So usually for data roles, Amazon doesn't like have a centralized recruiting system for data roles. So basically I just attended like 3 to 4 office hours, people coming from different business functions from Amazon, trying to learn about different teams in Amazon. I also reached out to people who were working at Amazon, and people I knew who could refer me. And I also applied online. I researched about roles on my own. I also applied. So I don't know what got me the first job, but like I just tried to kind of send my resume everywhere I can. and what is Amazon looking for? To that question, I feel because I've also been an interviewer, and especially for new grads, there are two important things which Amazon focuses on, which is leadership principles and technical basics. So if, all the data roles are very technical in nature, but we're not trying to see, okay, do you know the end-to-end process? Do you know everything? We're trying to look into the basics. Can you like write basic SQL? Can you do basic programming? Do you have basic analytical sense? But apart from that, we focus a lot on leadership principles. So if you don't know what leadership principles are, I would encourage you to go read about like the list of leadership principles Amazon believes in. And this is what we really focus on in terms of culture fit. We want to see if you have the aptitude to learn. Are you like really curious? Are you willing to learn? And we want examples from your past where you have demonstrated those skills. And moving on to the interview process in Amazon. So I had two phone screens. So one phone screen was purely behavioral. So the first phone screen was all about like culture fit. In fact, like before the interview, I had like a document. I listed down every single leadership principles, and I prepared like 1 to 2 examples of how I've demonstrated that that skill, like in my previous experience or during when I was doing my master's. And the second one is your technical phone screen. Again, we're just looking for basics. So technical phone screen, basic programming question. I have some resources at the end. So you can take a look at that. Basic SQL. Can you write basic SQL? Do you know all the analytical functions, things like that, and database concepts? So on-site is kind of mixed. It's a long on-site process. You have like close to 7 interviews, and you have 3 technical, 3 non-technical, purely focus on culture fit. And in the technical rounds on-site, the interviewers will probably go into deeper concepts like partitioning, indexing, normalization forms, statistics, and things like that for a data engineer. And also it's a plus, like you're not expected to know all the big data technologies like Spark and Hadoop, but it's a plus point, like if you've taken something like distributed computing, that's a big advantage for you to kind of navigate the data engineering landscape in Amazon.
Okay, so Bhargavi, I think that was really helpful. I think folk are now clear a bit about the technical skills. But you mentioned earlier that, a lot of times you struggle with those behavioral rounds. And I think it's pretty intuitive for us that when we are, many of us from, software engineering and other data backgrounds, that you gravitate towards spending so much of your preparation time towards building those coding and programming and other data skills, right, for an interview. So can you talk a little bit about, how one thing that was very interesting that you explained, and I think all of us should do that, is create a Google Doc, list down those 7 or 4 or 5 principles. I'm sure Netflix has a different type of culture objectives that they, or mission statements that they really, really focus on, and then create a kind of a story around each one and get feedback. I think that's the biggest thing. So could you talk a little bit about your behavioral journey and how you got better at it with time?
Yeah, I think one thing I really did was practice a lot. Like, I think I was strong technically, but in terms of cracking the behavioral side of things, I really like went online. I kind of, figured out from Glassdoor what kind of questions the company really asks, and come up with examples or prepare beforehand. So this is an example, like give me an example of a time when you had to go above and beyond the call of duty to get the job done. So this is a question I would ask a lot to candidates who are coming into interview. And these tests like 3 different leadership principles which Amazon really values: ownership, customer obsession, and bias for action. So the example I had prepared was when I was in Mu Sigma, there was a legacy report which would take a long time to put together. It was a report around social media metrics like likes and tweets. So it would, for years, it was running like that. It would take weeks to put together this report. And I just believe that there's a better way to do this kind of a report generation. and because it's a common problem. So I used VBA with Selenium to kind of automate the generation of these metrics, and it would go and pull these metrics automatically. So this not only reduced all the manual errors, but it also reduced like a lot of, it saved a lot of dollars for the company, in fact, like 80,000. And in fact, I was also given an award by my manager for automating this legacy report. So this is how like you would go about structuring your response to anything. And Amazon really like encourages you to follow that STAR format. So so STAR is just situation, task, action, result. So whenever you're responding to any of the behavioral questions, I would encourage you to like follow the format.
Great. Thank you, Bhargavi. I think that has been really useful. And of course, we have a few other resources and other such examples in the NX part. We just left it. Maybe when Bhargavi, or if she has time today, she's going to run us through them. But coming to the show portion, I think this has two sections. One where she is going to show and share with us her CV, her cover letter, some things that worked, didn't work, what constitutes a bad, terrible CV, what constitutes a better and a good and effective, impactful CV, and then of course a cover letter, and then she'll go on to review some of the CVs that she got in.
Cool. So coming to the bad CV, I just know it looks pretty terrible, so please don't follow any of that. This was my first attempt to create a CV when I was applying for internships. There's just so much space wastage, as you can see. High school information not relevant, so please don't include your 10th 12th grades, all of that. Tools and technologies highlighted at the top, so I haven't done that either. And in fact, like you know, the key is to put your resume into a single page, because nobody even has the time to kind of flip across resumes. So yeah, try to compact it to a single page. So I've also put in the CV I used for applying to different companies, and this is the one which I applied to Amazon. So I think one thing I really liked, like this is the feedback I got, was to specify the quantitative impact. So wherever it makes sense, I would add like, okay, what was the impact of the project I had worked on? Did it save dollars? Did it reduce developer time? What did it actually do? And I put the most relevant coursework and experience in the top of the CV. So resumes are never like one size fits all. Like there are just so many companies, and based on what the company wants, based on the roles and responsibilities, I would put in like my academic projects first, or like my coursework first. Whatever makes more sense, just try to put that up.
Okay, that's great, because I think one thing that is coming and jumping out of Bhargavi's presentation, and particularly showing the CV, is customizing the CV, right? You can have 30 different skills, but look at the job role, study it keenly instead of applying to 800 positions, right? Like look at 2-3 positions, look at and then customize those wordings, etc., to fit into either these projects or these professional experiences. And I mean, if not anything, highlighting in the computer skills, right? A bit about a cover letter, and maybe we'll skim through this and see. I mean, Bhargavi, are people looking at cover letters? How much? What is the strength
So
or
basically, what
percentage?
I've seen is tech companies don't look at cover letter. Like when I applied to all the Silicon Valley kind of companies, none of them wanted a cover letter. I saw this more for like finance or insurance-based companies. I don't know if there's a difference between why they want a cover letter or not. But I think one thing I can surely say, that don't include anything which you have in your resume already in your cover letter. Cover letters are supposed to be more like statements of purpose. Like you want to write about your motivation, talk about like 1 or 2 experiences you've had, and dig into it, rather than like, repeating the resume again.
Okay, cool. So these are the, I think, few key pointers. That is, she started off with drowning in data. She had like a hook that really wanted, I think, interviewers to dive deep. And then she spoke about some of her interests. And also, is this a good place to talk perhaps about, your interest, for example, in culture or in other initiatives, or I would pass it on and focus this strictly on projects or
Definitely. I think if you have a passion outside of like just, the tech skills, for example, like companies, at least in tech companies, they're valuing a lot of inclusion and diversity. Like a lot of tech companies in Silicon Valley, if you come in, like you'll see that there's so many initiatives to increase diversity in tech. They want more women, they want people from different like cultures and backgrounds to come. So if you have any experience, for example, like Netflix values inclusion and diversity a lot. So if somebody is applying and has a cover letter which says that, okay, I have these experiences in the past where I've tried to improve diversity in this field. So, I mean, go ahead and write it. This is the perfect place to write that.
Great. I think Bhargavi, I mean, quickly, if you want to run, this is another behavioral interview question that we thought if we have, but unfortunately, I think we'll move on to the review and the Q&A part. Then asking for a referral, there are a few tips that she highlighted, and then what constitutes a bad referral and a good referral. She was kind enough, Bhargavi, thank you so much for this. I think scripts are what most of us know the intent, but we don't know how to necessarily put them in words. So she, and again, don't feel compelled to write it down. We're going to send these presentations, provided we have a feedback form. Please fill that form, and once you all are filling it in, we're going to send this presentation to you. I mean, I'm just pushing this. Yeah. And then here are a few useful resources: Bhargavi's blog, some of the books, Coursera courses that she recommends, and a few other platforms that are useful. And quickly, this is our team right now. Vinay just joined us. He lives in India right now, so he's planning to soon come here. And then there's Aishwarya in Pittsburgh, so will be in Colorado, and I'm in Washington. Here is our email, and let's move on a bit to the Q&A section. The show section, and then Bhargavi, you want to share your screen with us?
Sorry, what?
Could you share your screen for the CVs? Perhaps we can start with, or you want me to share it with you?
Yeah, can you share it?
Cool. Sure. We'll start with Shamini, because I think she was one of the first people to share her CV. Shamini, are you around? I can't hear you. Okay, great. I'll just try to unmute you, so at least.
Hey, yeah, I'm
okay,
here.
Great. Okay, are there any questions, Shamini, before we jump in? I'm going to pull up your CV in the meanwhile.
Yeah, I would like to know like a little bit more about the technical preparation as well. Data engineer should concentrate more on SQL than the Python and other programming skills. But how did she go about, and is there any tips that she can give us on that part?
So can you mute your?
Okay.
So basically for programming, I just followed Cracking the Coding interview. That's like your Bible for any kind of programming related interview process. So I just followed that, and pretty much it's your choice when you have a programming question. Sorry, Kelvin, can you mute your?
Okay, let me try muting it.
So in a programming interview process, like it's up to you, it's up to the candidate what you're comfortable in, with, whether it's Python or Java or Scala. So I was very comfortable in Java, and I followed Cracking the Coding interview. For SQL, pretty much it was like basics of SQL. I took a course in database management systems, and I had an amazing professor, and I just followed my course notes. That's all I did, honestly.
Okay, great. Yeah. I'm just Shamini, I'm not able to pull up your CV for some reason. Could you please send it to us? Meanwhile, there is Ronak. I'll quickly pull up. Ronak, are you around?
Yeah. I'm around. Yes.
Okay, great. Here is your CV. While Shamini sends in, here is his CV, Bhargavi.
Yeah. First look, I really like your CV. I think it's much better than my first version for sure. But I think like you can definitely reduce the amount of space wastage because I feel like if you have more content to put in your CV, definitely like try to cut down on your margins and things like that. I would also, I mean, if I was an interviewer, I would really want to look into the details of your projects. I think they're just purely like one-liners, and I don't really understand what exactly that is. If you can reduce the space wastage and like expand on your academic projects more, I would really like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and again, like technologies put it right up, because a lot of times when candidates send me like their resumes, I'm mostly looking for experience in certain technologies or tools. So try to put it right below your education, and you can again compact it. Also I think your technical strengths, you don't have to include everything. Like look at your roles and responsibilities of the job role you're applying to. If you're applying for a data role, probably your hardware, like it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Right. Makes sense. Yeah.
Databases, cloud, big data, I really like your experience across all of that, so put that if you want to apply for a data role. But yeah, I mean, just use your judgment, remove technical skills which you feel like might not be very relevant.
Got it. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I'll make the.
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. Do you have any questions, Ronak?
Like no, like as you said, like these are really like valuable points to improve upon the CV. I'll do it right away, and yeah, definitely.
Again, like I would also encourage, like I really like candidates who put in their leadership skills, like if they've led a team somewhere or any of their leadership strengths, I would encourage you to put it. Like I like the things under honors where you got a first prize for some of the blockchain challenges, so I like that. But if you have any other leadership uh, example.
Sure, we're exactly. Like I'd love to put up my like research teams as well as clubs under my university. So that
Yeah,
would be.
if you were heading a student club, amazing.
Yeah. Sure. Like, thanks a lot.
No problem.
Okay, so I think Shamini's CV isn't. I'm so sorry, Shamini. We missed it someplace, but I'm going to pull it real quick. Next up is Vineet, if he is here, but I'm going to share Shamini's in the meanwhile.
Is Vineet here?
So Shamini is here, so I'm sharing the CV here, so you can give her feedback, and we can move on to Vineet afterwards.
Yeah, I have a physical copy, so I can start, I guess.
Sure.
It's a pretty good resume. Like it's very similar to how I structured my resume, and I like that you compacted your programming skills, everything right below the education. So I think one feedback I might have in your objective, seeking full-time opportunities in data analyst, data engineer, and BI engineering roles. Again, this is this depends on the role you're applying to. So when you're saying, okay, I'm open to data engineering, I'm open to data analyst, it kind of like confuses your interests and skills. So like if you're applying for a data analyst role, right? I mean, you don't even have to write that actually. I mean, it's pretty obvious that you're interested in that. That's one thing. And relevant courses. Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that you added your relevant courses, but then like make sure again, like if you're applying for a data engineering role, you could add machine learning or database and data mining and things like that. But maybe visualization and statistics are not very relevant. So just try to add the more relevant courses, because a lot of the big companies, they have algorithms running. They're trying to like pick resumes with keywords. So you want to make sure that your resume is the best match for like the skill set they're looking for. Otherwise, it's a pretty good resume. Try to quantify impact. I like the fact that you've said you've reduced 30% of the data loading time in one of your ETL workflow. So try to kind of quantify your impact more. And it doesn't have to be like a number. Even if you reduce like developer productivity, or even if you reduce like developer time, any of that can be a good impact. Yeah. Otherwise, I like it.
Great. Any final question, Shamini?
No, thank you. The objective thing, that was the resume I used for my career fair, so I understand. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
Got it. Okay, so Vineet, are you around?
Bhargavi, I just have one more question. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Is doing any certification related to data engineering, will it help at all?
Definitely it'll help. Like if you have done a certification, I mean, it gives you more credibility, because as a new grad, it's kind of very challenging to figure out, okay, like, will you be able to, like, you know, pick up these skills or not. So if you have a good certification, like, then sure, definitely will help.
Do you have any recommendations? Like, there are a couple of certification. There is one CCA, Hadoop and Spark developer certification from Cloudera.
Mm-hmm.
There is one from Google, Azure and all that. So do you have any idea, like, this will be better, that one will be better than the other, like that?
I don't think, I think Cloudera, Google, all of them are pretty, you know, good companies. So any of them would work. And I mean, see if you know, yeah, I mean, Cloudera, Google, and both should be pretty good. I don't have a specific recommendation on which one.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Let's move on to Vineet. Vineet, you can unmute yourself if you want to.
And also, I feel like Coursera also has certification courses right now. I really like some of the Coursera courses. I included them at the end of the presentation, but like, I'm pretty sure there might be some certification courses from Coursera.
Cool. I'll just take a look at it.
Yeah.
Great. I think we're ready for Vineet's. Thank you, Shamini.
Vineet, I love the format. Like, this is very different from the other resumes I've seen. But to be really, like, brutally honest, like, interviewers usually don't like appreciate the look and feel of the resume. I mean, I've had people coming up to me with like really fancy paper. Really doesn't matter, so please don't spend money on fancy paper. But I like the format, but again, like, it's a space issue. I feel like your the section on the top, Vineet Nair and data and business analytics, is just taking so much of your space, which you could ideally put into including more content, including more details about your work experience, your projects and things like that. So if it was me, I would have like reduced that top section. And I think you could write your GPA in your education and also your graduation month. You've written 2020, but like, some companies want to hire as soon as possible. So if you're graduating in November, for example, like this probably might not be the right time for the company to interview. So write your graduation month. And again, like, management skills, I would refrain from writing Excel, PowerPoint, things like that. I mean, if you had to write something around soft skills, write what you're good at, what your soft skills are. Like, are you good at like team building? Are you good at any other soft skills? But yeah, I mean, I would refrain from writing Excel and PowerPoint. That's like, I mean, yeah. So your projects seem very interesting, but like, are they academic projects? Vineet, are you there?
Vineet? I mean, I've unmuted him. So yes, I'm here. I'm unable to access.
Sent a message saying his audio is not working.
Okay, you should be able to right now. Are you?
Yeah, I think he's responding in the chat saying they're academic projects.
Oh, they're academic one. Yeah, I mean, like I would write down where you did it. Like if it's in a university project, like write down where you uh did those projects. And also in your profile section, you wrote something like looking out for ways to solve analytic marketing business problems. So I don't know, do you want to focus on just marketing uh, related roles? I mean, marketing is very niche, so if you're applying for your first job, I mean, just be more broad, be more open. So I mean, I would remove marketing and try to just like articulate it in a way that you're interested in data and analytics, but you don't really care about uh, the actual business function. And again, another thing, the same thing which I will repeat is talk in terms of impact more. And like, I know you've had like really good projects, but again, what was the impact of you taking on that project or taking on that initiative? And there's just too many numbers. Like you have put in too much like low level details, like in the Empire State with the price of $9.99 per night and the host ID number. Like it's very low level details which doesn't add much. So I would take out of all of those very specific numbers which you have put in your resume. And so also talk in active voice. So you've written something like Plotly package was used to create an interactive visual. So if you talk about, you can rephrase it in the same way, in the sense that I used this package to create an interactive visual. So active voice gives you more credibility that this is what you have accomplished. And again, like what I've repeated in the previous resume, you can add leadership skills, like anything you have taken on in the past. That will be pretty useful. Yeah.
I think this is very useful. I mean, I'm a non-techie, but I am on a couple of hiring teams. I think one thing that really I'm here. Thank you so much. That's what she says. That's what Vineet says. So I'm so sorry. I think one thing is culture, right? Something that is very understated. But Bhargavi, when I think one of the first things our team, when me, Survi, and Vinay were, trying to flesh out her experience, we're like, why did they hire you? Sometimes we get hired, and I went back and I asked my boss, as in, there were 8 people, and there were 150 resumes that came in, and she was like, "Yeah, Pura, they really liked that I was curious." That's what she mentioned, which was also the headline of the marketing that we did around Bhargavi. And B, she said that, some of the culture initiatives that she was passionate about, like women in tech, that she actively involved, and she mentioned that in her CV, maybe not in her cover letter, but maybe, I also tell some of my friends from Asia, like Chinese friends, that CVs tell also a story, okay? Have a personality. Of course, we are giving, Bhargavi says that, start with the star approach, make sure there are impact numbers, yada, 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 but also have like a personality. If you have hobbies, write a little bit about it. I remember one of my interviews as a special assistant, the first thing was, "Oh, you run a marathon." That was the CEO's opening line. So, these things matter. So there is a bunch of space here, right? Perhaps you can include some of those other fun stuff about yourself.
Also, like if you look into my LinkedIn also, like I've not just written about, okay, these are my technical skills and this is what I've been working on. I've kind of written about my passions outside of work, that I like traveling, and it becomes like a good conversation point when a lot of recruiters come to me, and then they kind of resonate with something I've written, and then they come back to me and we have a conversation around it. So it's just a good way to kind of, like Apurva said, to put your personality out there through various other things.
Okay, great. I think, Bhargavi, that is great insight. We have one more. Akshata, are you around? I think also from New York.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, hi, Akshata.
Hi.
So Akshata actually sent in her cover letter and her CV. Do you want to look at the cover letter first and give some insight so that people just know a bit of do's and don'ts, and then we can dive deep into her CV. And then we can open up for Q&A.
Yeah. So for cover letter, like I had a couple of points. Again, like I think I've said this before, but don't repeat anything you have like on your resume. Like you have things like I recently graduated from data science master's program at Columbia University, and I've completed my undergraduate degree in computer science. So this is all repetitive information. So the goal is not to make a bigger cover letter. The goal is to put in or capture your motivation on why you want to be in that role and in that company. So just take out everything you've written in your resume. And 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 you said the company recognizes the importance of data analytics in the world. I love the fact that you acknowledge and you've written it from the company's perspective and the company values it. But it'll be even much better if you kind of come up with an example. Like let's say the company has a blog where it's like, come up with this amazing predictive model and used analytics to drive customer acquisition and increase their revenues, things like that. Like if you've
Okay.
researched about a company, like put that knowledge in it. So this is very broad, right? Though I like it, it's kind of broad. So try to put in like an example which you have found, which made you like believe that this company is amazing and you want to be part of it. Again, like I like the entire section around Amazon, and looks like you interned at Amazon, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Last summer.
Yeah, I love the entire section where you talked about what you did and that you worked with brilliant minds from diverse cultures. And again, like, Amazon values diversity, and you've written that. So it kind of shows your focus areas. But again, like try to cut down. Don't just write all the projects you've worked in. Just pick maybe one or two and try to dig deep into like from how you started with it to how you ended it. So I want to
Okay.
know like just one or two examples, and rather than like again repeating what you have.
Sure.
Again, yeah, and at the end, like why not talk about your soft skills? You have focused a lot on your technical skill set, and you focused a lot on the company and why the company attracts you. But like if you see my cover letter, I've written that I'm a very result oriented individual. I like working in complex environments. So things like that, what you like,
Okay.
and your kind of soft skills you're good at. So yeah.
Just a minute or so on her CV, perhaps, Bhargavi, because I think we are running out of time. Meanwhile, please feel free to type in your questions and we'll open it up.
Okay. I think you have added like courses in two different places and you're repeating machine learning. So if it was me, I would just put like one section for courses. It doesn't matter if you took it in your undergrad or your master's. So just
Okay.
add that. And again, you can refrain from like writing calculus, linear algebra, things like that. I mean, everybody learns calculus, linear algebra, Microsoft SharePoints. Yeah, you could totally remove those points. Yeah, I mean, otherwise I don't have much. And instead of activities, maybe you could phrase it as leadership. Activities like, okay, I've participated, but leadership has a different like connotation to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just leadership skills as the heading.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, how does hobbies or interests sound? No?
Hobbies or interests. Yeah, I mean it's really up to you. Like, but I just feel that leadership has a different connotation, especially like for a company like Netflix. So because we hire seniors, we hire people, and everybody is a leader. Like everybody here, like if you meet any one person, you can be totally convinced that that person can actually lead a team. And so that's a very important skill set for a company like Netflix. So it really depends on like what the company values.
All right. I just had one question. Is the position of the technical skills correct, or should that be after the education?
No, that's a good point.
Actually, that's a good point. Try to put it up just below your education, because that's what I really like would look at. Yeah. And also like data science experience and your academic projects. I mean, there's no correct space for either of them. Like I said, I would just put whatever makes sense. Like even if I'm applying for a security company and all that I have related to security is an academic project, I would put that academic project first.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Any more questions, Akshata?
I think I'm good for now.
Okay, great. So I think Shamini has a question, but before I know Shamini, we took a bunch of questions from you, but others, do you all have any questions? And then if not, we can take hers. But okay, can you share a little bit about how your Netflix technical round was?
Sure. So again, like any company starts with your HR VP trying to assess culture fit, but my first technical phone screen was the first one was a couple of programming questions, and they were again like basic programming questions around like string manipulation, usage of different data structures, arrays, how would you loop through elements, so things like that, very basic, regex matching, so things like that. So I had two programming questions, and then again there was a database schema. So it was a predefined database schema, and it was very open-ended, so you had to ask some of those questions to clarify, okay, what does this data mean, what does this column mean, why is the data structured like that. And they had a couple of SQL questions for me to kind of write down, and it was like a proper, so it would give you those results back. So if you've made like syntax errors, it can easily catch that. So we have that internal system to do that. And the third part of it was like mostly around Spark basics. So Spark, like how would you set like your memory, like, you know, if there's a skew in the data, how would you handle that situation? If you have a single gzip file, like how would you process that, and how would you partition your data? And there were a couple of questions around AWS, because I've worked for Amazon before, and so he asked me questions about S3 and EMR. So that was my phone screen. And once I was on site, I think one interview was on analytical sense, so which was mostly focused on how well do I think about analytics or working with analytics individuals. So I think the question was more about like A/B testing. If Netflix wants to conduct an A/B test on its portal, how would you go about collecting some of those metrics? How would you, like, again, very open-ended. And then there was a design round where you were getting like a high volume data set, which tracks like clicks and impressions on the Netflix portal, and how would I assess success metrics for Netflix. So again, I had to design the entire architecture end to end, and I had to write pseudo Scala code to build or calculate some of those metrics. So there are multiple metrics you can calculate, right? When you have clickstream, so you can calculate like your launch time of a title. You can calculate like how long does a person take to find a title, so things like that. So basically you have a lot of events in the customer's life cycle when they enter Netflix to till they watch a title, till they end the titles. So there are multiple events which we get. So yeah.
Okay, great. I think that's great info. So another one, Bhargavi, where would you see yourself in the next 5 years?
That's a very good question. And I keep thinking about it every single day. So thank you for making me think about it again. I don't really know. I like being a data engineer, but in the next 5 years, I do see myself somewhere in a leadership position. I like, so Netflix is a great company. If you want to drive things end to end, like the zero micromanagement, the manager is not going to come and tell you like, Bhargavi, work on this or work on that. So you pretty much like drive a project end to end. You get to choose what projects you work on. You talk to your stakeholders. You kind of, come up with requirements, come up with the solution, impact, delivery, everything. So I kind of like that life cycle, but I feel like in the next 5 years, I would want to do something. I want to be in the data field, but maybe more in a leadership strategic role.
Okay, great. Any more questions from people? He says it's great. Okay, I mean, Bhargavi, is there are there any other things that you would like to share? I think we do have 5 more minutes, so we want to make use of the time. But we can talk. I think some of the things that we did look at, though we did not dive deep, was like referrals. A lot of people, you were telling us, reach out to you for referrals, right? So what is a bad referral? What is a good referral? Is there a human way to do it? I think that's point one. So, and how do we do it?
So I mean, when a lot of people ask me for referrals, I kind of I kind of skim through it a lot of times, but something really catches my eye, like that person has maybe met me in the past, or like really liked something about the Netflix culture, and they really want to know about certain technology or a blog they've read about. That kind of catches my attention more than like somebody coming to me and saying, hey, can you please refer me, and I don't know, like I tend to be more receptive to people who catch my attention. And also I feel like it's difficult for a company like Netflix, because like I said, we hire people with prior work experience. So I think a lot of people want to be referred at Netflix, but my advice for them would be like, you need to get some more experience before I feel like you can start applying, because it's challenging for new grads to be referred without any experience. So, but like for Amazon, for example, I would always help them find a role that would be suitable. So yeah, I mean, there's no such thing as a bad referral or a good referral. It's just that, okay, if you send it to 10 people, what are the chances that at least 2 will catch it and refer you?
Okay, that's great. So we are getting a few more questions. I think Jay Santosh sent another question, but we'll hold off because Himanshu has another. I think that's very useful. I think one thing before we move to the one question was Bhargavi. When you send, like, she wrote a very, very interesting. Not that everyone should reach out to her now on LinkedIn saying that Bhargavi, we love your blog, but so there are people who write stuff, they share interesting stuff. So I think it's good to pinpoint certain things on their CV, not to appear too much as a stalker, but saying something like, hey, even I graduated from this university, or this is the project that specifically interested me, or we met recently at XYZ event, things like that. Just be a bit more precise, because I'm sure she receives a ton of them. And in fact,
so that's an interesting point, was a lot of people like would reach out to me, hey, I love that blog, it was awesome. And then one person told me that you didn't really talk about these things, and what you talked about, like about compensation, that's totally inaccurate. So I mean, that caught my attention, that somebody didn't agree with some of the things I'd written. And yeah,
there you go. I mean, the point is to make a genuine attempt, right? To understand. All of us love talking ourselves. We always say that, like, who doesn't like talking about oneself? But ask intelligent questions. And there's an entire section that we'll share where Bhargavi outlines the kind of intelligent questions you can ask to different people. When you're in Amazon, you are with them all day, right, Bhargavi, if I'm not mistaken? The on-site is like pretty much 4-5 hours. So
it's pretty much like 7 interviews. And like, if you want, you can actually ask your recruiters for who's going to interview you. It's not stalking. So I went to every single interview's LinkedIn profile. I tried to understand, okay, what domain are they working in? What do they care about? And I prepared questions. And it's not like you just like blurt out those questions once you're in the interview. The key is to have a conversation. But at least having seen their LinkedIn profile before the interview, it helped me kind of gauge their personality and their skill set and things like that.
Yeah, and like something, a question that you would ask a leader is completely different from a question, hiring manager to a recruiter to the HR, different questions. So I think one has to be cognizant about that as well. So what are the key technical skills one needs to focus on to prepare for an engineering roles, data engineering roles? Okay, there is another question. How did you get the interviewer's attention at Netflix?
Sorry, can somebody...
Their birthday.
How did I get the interview's attention? What?
How did you get the interviewer's attention at Netflix? Through referrals or through the online application? I think that was a referral, right?
Yeah, so I was a bit lucky because my husband also works for Netflix. So he referred me through the common like referral portal. But the advantage was because he already works for Netflix. So he just put in like a internal like message, hey, like I referred somebody if you want to take a look. Not like that got me into the company, but at least it was like, okay, I had somebody who worked at Netflix who kind of forwarded my resume. So yeah, I mean, I didn't have recruiters reach out. So
Okay, great. I think we are unfortunately, Himanshu. I think we did speak about technical skills in Netflix. So specifically for data engineering roles in we spoke about
I can
technical skills in
quickly go through
Amazon.
it. Just quick,
Okay, just
like
a
if I
minute
have
or
to
so.
like
Yeah.
talk about like technical skills at Netflix, SQL has to be tips of your fingers. Like you really need to be, if you screw up SQL, then yeah, you're pretty much not making it. And programming, doesn't matter what the choice of programming language is, Java, Python, Scala, up to you, but you really need to be good at least one. And the third thing is big data around, like if you worked on Hadoop or Spark, either one, that's pretty important. And if you have any cloud technology experience, if you work with GCP, if you work with AWS, it's a good to have, but I feel like you can have a lot of discussions around cloud technologies. So these are 4 things.
Great. I think that's fantastic, and let's close it with that. Bhargavi, thank you so much from me, from all the students and our immigrant project team. I know Surbhi, Vinay, me, and Bhargavi spent multiple Zoom calls such as this to crystallize the wealth of knowledge, wisdom, and data that she has. Right, she has so much information, but to put it in this 1 hour took an incredible amount of hard work. So thank you so much, Bhargavi, for your time.
Thank you
And
for having me and everyone for attending.